there. And it says you're live. Now it says we're live. Yeah, why don't you see it first? It says live now, and it's got a little second timer that's going there. YouTube, you didn't make this as easy as Facebook Live is. This is not good, but that's okay. We're going to survive here. We're going to restart our conversation. I've got with me. Did it show up on the feed? Yes. Okay, awesome. Hey folks, Buck Rizvi here, Health Profits Academy. It's so good to have you joining us on the call tonight for this live Q&A with Yuri Elkaim, New York Times bestselling author. I'm actually gonna go ahead and create a dual-headed interface here so we can kind of talk as well. Let me add a new shot so that we. There we go. We get. Can you see us both? Can you hear us both, Yuri? So that means, okay, awesome. And I see the audio is playing. So we're live. This is going out live. There might be a little delay in getting it out to YouTube, but Yuri and I had a wonderful time. Thank you so much, Yuri, for coming and joining us and giving that amazing content mastery training for the group. We had, it was standing room only. We blew out the GoToWebinar. People were getting knocked away because I could kind of see it happening. Every time it would happen, I would get a little alert box that said, "You have exceeded the capacity of GoToWebinar. Do you want to knock one of the current attendees out so that someone else can come in?" and so okay, let me do this. Audio. Sure. It says it's picking up your audio, but is everyone not able to hear Yuri, and it can only hear my voice? Go ahead and say a few more. Open in a new window. Hang on a sec. Can't hear Yuri, cannot hear Yuri. All right. So what about now? Yuri, go ahead and say a few words. Can you hear Yuri now? Give us a... So everyone's saying they can hear Yuri now. You can hear Yuri. Elegant Beans and Beyond said, yes, you can hear Yuri. Is that right? Elegant Beans and Beyond? All right. Well, I'll tell you what. I'm gonna do system capture audio on these, and I'll do the audio differently and see if that picks it up. So go ahead and keep talking. Can you guys? How about now? Go ahead, Yuri.
All right. So hopefully you guys are hearing me now. If you guys can let us know in the chat. Testing 1, 2, 3. Just let us know in the chat if you can hear me. Can you hear me? Let me know in the chat. Just type it out. Again, I apologize for all the little technical glitches here, but we'll get to the goodness.
Give us some feedback, folks. Can you hear Yuri? Still can't hear Yuri. Oh, I can hear
Dan
you.
Dan says yes, he can. All right, I think we're
yes,
good.
You can. Spark Truth says yes, you can hear. You can hear Yuri now.
We're good.
Yes.
I think we're good.
Woo! All right. I just switched to the system audio, so it's picking that up. It's picking me up. Hopefully, we're good to go. If you experience any more audio problems, you guys. Now, Teresa says I can't hear Yuri. Is that up to date?
Yeah, maybe there's a little bit of a lag.
Is there a lag in this?
So hopefully that everyone should be hearing.
Terry says yay. Elegant Beans and Beyond says yay. I can hear. May want to refresh. Both of you are clear, says Spark Truth. So if you, for some reason, if you can't, let me just put it in here. Refresh screen. Okay. Refresh window.
Okay, I think we're good. I think we're...
Let's do it, sir.
Nice.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So, well, I'm excited to be here. It looks like we've got a good group in the house. They got some questions they want to get answered. The folks are probably a few frustrated people that didn't make it to the training because they were kicked to the curb, and not by design. It was just that was the issue. Teresa, reset. Go ahead and just refresh your browser, or close down your browser and come back in, and come back into that link. So it sounds like everyone else is able to hear Yuri now. So I suspect that's working. Got Yuri. Teresa, yay! Okay, cool. Now, a little bit of delay. All right, so Yuri, we're here. We've got you on the line. You did amazing training. Just to remind folks about your background is that you are a certified nutritionist. You're a New York Times bestselling author. You've got a blog that helps. How many people are you kind of interacting with on a monthly basis through YuriElkaim.com now?
We're probably close to 500,000. And again, this is organic. I mean, if we start driving Facebook ads, like if we want to turn on Facebook ads, that can go to whatever level we want. But I would say organically, from all of the sites that we publish on and links coming back to it and our YouTube stuff and all that, it's hovering about 500,000 right now. Wow. And to be very honest with you, I mean, we're really just scratching the surface with what we're doing with our blog. And it's funny because I've been writing content for a number of years, but none of it was really strategic until about 2 years ago. And now that we've really kind of dialed this in and committed to making our blog like the preeminent power of our business, I have no doubt that by the next 12 to 18 months, we'll probably be hovering towards, I would say, at our current growth, we'll probably do about 8 million uniques a month. That's our goal by next year.
Hold on a second. I just had a little bit of a heart skip there. How many 8 million uniques a month?
Yeah.
And that,
I just realized I have a little something in my teeth there. So
are you doing something? I thought maybe you stuttered there for a second because wow. So is that going to be the majority of that traffic driven by the methods that you have put together in your content mastery method, or is it something else in addition to that to get to that 8 million that you're targeting?
Yeah. So for me, I mean, it's very easy for us because we have these intelligent content funnels built out to drive traffic. Like we can turn on Facebook ads or YouTube ads in that case, or even Pinterest ads, which we do all three of, and we can drive traffic to a blog post, and that can spike our traffic overnight.
Okay.
But for me, the true measure is how much of our traffic is coming from like Google organic search, because for me, that's the ultimate measure of a stable online platform is when people are typing in questions like how to tie my shoelaces, for instance, and your website comes up in the top couple results to show you how to tie your shoelaces, right, as an example. And we're doing that with all sorts of keywords and content and questions that people want answers to. And with this method, with organic traffic that I'm talking about here, it doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah.
Right? You can very easily drive traffic to a blog post overnight if you want to drive Facebook ad. Like you can turn on a Facebook ad and drive it to a blog post. And I think I mentioned to you guys, like we had that one blog post that was getting like 8,000 plus shares, that one sugar blog post that we had on Facebook. That was just you had sharing it like crazy.
Yeah, you showed the ad and the landing page.
Since our webinar, that's jumped up to 9,200 shares. So in the space of like a week, we added an extra 1,000 shares to that ad. And that's going to a blog post that has a very strategic kind of funnel built out that allows us to monetize that particular blog post. So yes, we can drive traffic through paid ads using this method, and we're doing that. But we also have a big focus on driving organic traffic so that we're ending up in the top of the search engines for the keyword phrases and the content that we want to be found for.
Hold on a second. I'm gonna make sure, because I just noticed something keeps changing here on the audio capture. I just want to make sure that it's still working. Hang on a second.
Cool.
So can everyone go ahead and did everyone catch that when Yuri was talking? Because I know I'm maybe it's better if I just leave things as they were. Is everyone still picking up Yuri as he's talking here? Can you give me a yes or a no?
We are good, hopefully.
Just give us some feedback on the chat. I'm crossing my fingers that I wasn't getting to. Okay, so why don't we? I tell you what. Why don't we go ahead and jump into the Q&A part? So, Dushan, can you hear Yuri? Go ahead and.
Yeah, I got your question there, Dushan. So how do you make your post go viral? Great question. And it's actually interesting because so I talk about this in the online course. So the Content Mastery Blueprint that we give you guys as a bonus, kind of an adjunct to the workshop, it goes into more granular detail about some of these topics. And going viral is one of the things that I talk about in the course specifically. And this actually is very interesting because it comes out of a lot of, excuse me, it comes out of some research done by, oh my goodness, I just totally forgot his name. A book called Contagion, Jonah Berger, I believe that is the author. So he is really interested in how why humans do what they do. And so in this book, basically what they found is that why things go viral is because of emotional charge related to certain things. And there's obviously very specific emotions that tend to cause people to share content, and usually it's things like anger or surprise or deep emotion that is associated with a specific piece of content. So that could be a blog post, that could be a video. If you look at the most viral videos that are circulating around on YouTube as well as on Facebook, I want you to think about this. So what they found is that the number one emotion that triggers virality is awe. So when you're looking at something, when you're watching something, when you're reading something, and you have that sense of, wow, like this is pretty special. Like, I don't know if you guys ever saw, I think it was about three years ago, I think, Red Bull had that crazy adventure guy, he does all these extreme things, go to space and free dive from space, like back to Earth.
I remember that.
And the whole thing was televised. Now, that is awe. That's like, holy cow, you have to watch this. Now, don't think that all of your content you don't have to go to space and jump out of a spaceship to have stuff go viral. But it's also something that is it's rare. Like, I'll be very honest with you, like the vast majority of the content we produce doesn't go viral, right? But that's not the point. The point is to really just serve people with the questions that they have and be able to answer it. Because I mean, if you create content following our EPIC framework that we talked about on the webinar, and I can touch upon those points if you want again, naturally people are gonna, like, maybe not to the point of like, oh my God, everybody has to see this, but if they know of one, maybe two other people who could benefit from that same information, then that's pretty cool. Because what ends up happening is, and I'm just gonna go back to this Facebook ad that we have running. So we have paid so now it's been seen by 1.3 million people. We have paid for 700 and some odd thousand of those views, which means that there are 600,000 views that we got free organically because people shared that Facebook ad. Now, I don't know about you, but that's pretty amazing. We're basically paying for half of the views on that ad because people were willing to share this with one or two friends in the comments. And we didn't say, hey, share this post. We didn't say share the ad. We just provided value in the ad, and the blog post that it directed to was very valuable for those dealing with sugar cravings that they felt it was worthwhile sharing on their Facebook feeds. So is that a viral post? I don't know, but it was super helpful for those that were dealing with that issue. So for us, that's really what matters most. So I hope that kind of answers your question there.
That was a great answer. Thank you, Yuri. We've got another good one. Dushan, and please, I know other folks are on the line asking questions too, but let's, Dushan, you have another follow-up question. Can we attract the FTC? I guess concerned about drawing the ire of the FTC when you're marketing health.
That's always. To be honest, I don't really think about it that much. I mean, if you're doing stuff that's a little bit shady, hopefully you're not, then that may be more of a concern. But remember that, it's very rare that you're going to put up a post on Facebook or somewhere else about a product and it's going to go viral, right? Say, hey, here's my protein powder. Oh my God, like this, everyone has to see this, unless it's something spectacularly unique and there's some kind of vivid demonstration. The reality is, like, if you can meet people with content first and then worry about the products on the back end, that's the way we've approached it. If you go to my blog, you're like, how does this person even make money? Like, there's zero products on our blog, even though we have hundreds of products in our business. But none of that is forward facing. And we've developed a shop on our blog on the back end, which we actually don't even really use that much, because we want to get people into a specific bucket, if you will, and provide tremendous value for them before we even ask anything in return. So if you can meet people, remember, they're always looking at, okay, where's the sales pitch come in? They have this, this radar, and we all do. We don't like being sold to, but we love buying. So if you can allow people to browse your shop, browse your content, allow them to binge consume what you have to offer, the next natural step is they're going to be like, well, how do I get this thing? Or how do I benefit from your product, which I don't even know what it is, but I think you might have something that could be of benefit to me. And that's what you want to do. When you do that, and assuming you're backing everything up, if you're making claims, you have to back up stuff. You have to show studies on PubMed. You have to reference out to everything you're claiming. And that's part of our EPIC formula where the P stands for proof, right? You have to have proof for statements and claims. You can't just say, hey, this herb has been found to help people lose weight. Well, cool, where's the proof? So back everything up in your content, obviously on your product pages as well. But I don't really think you're going to run into some. I don't know personally. I don't know if you guys have run into FTC issues, Buck, but we've never come across anything. Like the only issue that we had way back in the day was with Google AdWords, where our ad account was shut down because all of the web pages on our website weren't compliant with Google Ads. So then we had to change everything to be more watered down and basically say, this might help you lose weight, but we're not too sure. It has in some cases, but you have to be very bland about that. But again, that's a slightly different story. Yeah,
we haven't had any problems with the FTC. We've only had problems over the last 10 years, really, with the ad networks, and this is great that they're being that much sticklers about it. Starting around 2007, 2008, when they had some shutdowns, and certain networks such as Yahoo at that time were not even accepting supplements or personal care products on their networks. So. But yeah, the fact that if you are generally compliant with a Facebook and Google these days, they're very strict about what you're able to put up there. Then generally, I'm not saying in all cases, but generally they almost have a little bit of a higher standard than what the FTC and the FDA have.
I just want to follow up on that too. Social media is not a place to be pushing products. Like if you go to my fan page, not my personal profile page, but my health fan page on Facebook, mm-hmm. and you scroll through the last year of posts on our Facebook page, you will not see a single promotion. Seriously, like even there might be one mention like, hey, buy the book or whatever that we just released. But to be very honest, 99% of all of our posts on Facebook are 100% content. Video, blog post, inspirational quote, because that's the platform. It's native to Facebook. Facebook is not, it's becoming a little bit more commercialized, but it's not the place where people are going to shop, right? People are going to Google to look specifically for best protein powder. They're not going to Facebook to search best protein powder. They're there to kind of escape, connect with friends, and if you can match their general interests based on how you can target people or if they're fans of your page with stuff that's relevant to them and not a sales pitch, that's how you're going to give, and give some more before anything else comes back to you. And for me, that's the ultimate way of doing business, because if you're just pitching stuff all the time, it's not going to last too long. And it's very tough to go from Facebook ad right to sales page these days. And if you can do Facebook ad to content and make it work, you can do that until the end of time, for sure.
Amen. So we got a great Christopher, thank you for asking the question here. And Christopher has been to, I think, all three, I believe, maybe the last two Health Profit Summits here in Boulder, Colorado.
Nice.
So Christopher's asking, what would you recommend for a person just starting out to create health information content?
Nice. Great question. Whether you're starting out or whether you're more advanced, I'm going to say the same thing. You have to spend a good amount of time, probably more time than you want to, on research. And this is funny, actually. I just had I had an interview with our mutual friend Brian Kurtz, and he has a new book out called The Advertising Solution. And one of the things that he mentioned from the book was, out of all the legends, out of these copywriting legends, Gary Halbert, Eugene Schwartz, all these people, he said the biggest thing they all had in common was they were obsessed with doing excessive amounts of research before they started writing anything. And that's because they had to know the audience they were speaking to, they had to know the language, they had to know the pains and frustrations and the desires. And that's a really good lesson there, because the mistake I made way back in the day when I started creating content with no strategic focus was just like, I have an idea, I'm just going to talk about it. And in some cases, eventually met somebody where they're at, and it gave them some valuable insight. And you can still do that, but I'm telling you, if you want to save time in the long run and actually produce content that people are searching for, you have to spend a good chunk of time initially on the research. And what the cool thing about this is that you can do the research once, like literally 1 to 2 times per year. And let's say in those 1 to 2 times per year, it's going to take you an average, or let's say a combined total of 10 hours of work, okay? 10 hours of research in 1 year to come up with all of the content you will need for that entire year. Now, that's assuming you are going to be publishing several pieces per week. Now, I say that because in our business, that's essentially how much time we devote to research, right? So what we'll do, and again, as a beginner, what I would do, and I talk about this in the ideate phase of the Teach to Sell method, which is the first step, right? Ideate, which is the idea and the research phase, is first and foremost, you need to understand how to do keyword research properly. And we have a very specific 3-step, what we call gold mining formula that we walk you through. It's a little bit more, obviously, I can't really get into it here because I've got to show you kind of like how to do it in different platforms. But essentially what you want to be finding are keywords that are not super competitive, but that there are actually people searching for at a decent level. And I talked about this in the webinar, where if you're trying to produce content around terms like weight loss or protein powder, you're going to be creating content, even if it's amazing, that very few people are ever going to find, unless your site tends to be or happens to be CNN.com, right? Because what we're in the business of doing is, you don't have to become a massive behemoth publishing site. What you want to be is a nimble, niched, focused website that matches people's questions with really good answers. And remember what we talked about, how the long tail keywords, right? So keyword phrases of 4 words or more make up 80% or more of the searches in Google. At the same time, the more words somebody types into a search query, the more likely they are to be motivated to take a specific action. So again, weight loss, what's the intent there? I have no idea. It could be anything. But how to lose weight after pregnancy, as we talked about, that's that's not an ambiguous intent. Like, that's how to lose weight after pregnancy. Everybody would know what the intention is there, right? So you want to match what people are searching for with content that solves and meets those issues. And the best way to do that is to go after keyword phrases that are long tail, that have low competition, and relatively high search. Now, what is high search? Well, it could be 100 searches a month. It could be 1,000 searches a month. It really depends on what the competition level is as it's associated with it. Does that make sense? I hope I didn't, kind of lose you guys on that. But you basically want to be going where there's few people, few competitors, and a good degree of search so that it's actually worthy of your time to invest in a piece of content. Because what you can do over time is you just create pieces of content that are talking to, let's say, 200 people searching for something a month, right? You have 10 of those different types of pieces. That's 2,000 people collectively that are searching for those different topics. Now, if you rank number one on Google, as an example, for those topics, you're going to get about 35 to 50% of the clicks. So let's say you're going to get 1,000 of those visitors to your website. And again, each of those keywords is going to have a different value in terms of the cost per click. But let's just say that each of those keyword phrases had a cost per click value of $1. Let's just as an example. That means every single time somebody clicks on your blog post from Google, the value to you would be $1. So in this case, about $1,000 from those different blog posts. Now that's a super theoretical example, but the key is you want to be producing content that is based on research that you've done ahead of time, that is, again, meeting people where there's little competition, a good degree of search, and naturally is going to meet people's needs and desires. So does that answer your question, Christopher, as a starting point?
Yeah, that was excellent, Yuri. And one big takeaway I have here, and Dushan is also saying it's making sense. So Christopher, and I know you had a follow-up question there, Christopher. One big takeaway I'm getting from this is this. You said 10 hours of research to basically come up with the content that you need for the entire year. That's exciting because that is very little time relative to the amount of hours you have for the year. It sounds like, I don't know if this is true or not, but it sounds like you could probably front end load that research so that you're kind of doing it in one chunk and then you're then doing whatever the steps you are taking to produce that content. Is that fair?
So here's the exciting part too. So
okay.
We literally just released the updated version of the Healthpreneur website, which even is still not even fully, it's still not fully done. We have very little content on the site, but it's basically starting from zero. So we're currently going through the keyword research stuff to develop content around stuff that our marketplace, health and fitness professionals and health crusaders are looking for and would find valuable. And so I started going through this process literally 3 weeks ago. And then I thought to myself, hold on, why am I doing this? I've already created the algorithm. I've created the process.
Yeah.
So I reached out to my assistant and I said, watch these 2 videos, which are actually part of the Content Mastery Blueprint. And please come up with a list of 100 keyword phrases that becomes our next 100 pieces of content for the next year or maybe 2 years. Because we're only going to be publishing 1 to 2 pieces of content per month on the Healthpreneur website as it stands right now. So I literally create, and the cool thing is, again, so you can have a process person, an assistant, go through this and they do this for you because I show you exactly how to, it's a bit of a repetitive process, right? So as the entrepreneur, as the CEO of your company, you don't need to be the one doing this. It's good to have an understanding of it, but once you've watched the video, you can just hand it off to an assistant and they can run through that. They'll just give you the Excel spreadsheet with your content list for the next year or however long you want, and you're set to go. Now, that's pretty exciting to me because what that means to me is that my assistant is working on that. She's going to send me the finished product in terms of here are the keyword phrases. And now I know what is really going to make an impact. Because I'm not just going to create content because I want to talk about stuff anymore. I realize that doesn't really work very well in the long term. So now if I have this list of 100 keywords that I know we can actually rank for in Google, not only can I produce content for our sites around those keyword phrases, but I can even reach out to other websites and produce content for them around those keyword phrases too, and get some links back to my site. So it's super awesome when you don't have to, and this is going back to thinking like the owner of your business as opposed to the person doing all the work. And if you don't have anyone else working with you, you can literally hire a virtual assistant for, let's say, 1 week, 10 hours of work, whatever you want, have them do this for you, and you're set to go.
This is, and I love the community here because we already, Kitty just joined us. Hi, Kitty. Good to have you on the line. Kitty just joined us and she came in a little late. So already the community's answering some questions for her as you were talking. So I love it. But let me roll back here to a couple questions that came up earlier. So Christopher says, so you're looking to become the trusted advisor. The long tail keyword research makes sense, as long as we're not keyword stuffing. So he's kind of referring, I know that's a technical term for what some I would call black hat SEO folks do. This is not
Yeah.
what this is about. This is,
No.
because you and I have talked about this during the training. This is about white hat techniques that create content that not only the search engines love and will give you longevity in terms of traffic coming from as a result of what you're placing there, but also the consumers of that content will love.
Yeah, that's a good point because if anything is gray hat, it'll eventually become black hat. So none of the stuff I talk about is even remotely gray hat. But that's a good point you bring up in terms of keyword stuffing because years ago, and honestly, like not too long ago, it was maybe 2 or 3 years ago, the recommendation was if you have a blog post on, let's say, let's just use the example of protein powder, okay? And you want to rank a blog post that the keyword phrase is best protein powder. What you would do is you would have best protein powder in the headline, you would have best protein powder in all the sub-headlines in your blog post, and then you would have best protein powder mentioned several times in the content, so your keyword density was above a certain level. And that was the recommendation several years ago. And then, remember, Google is trying to become human. It's trying to think like a human. And when, as a human, you're reading this, and it's like, best protein powder facts, best protein powder on the market, best protein powder, what you should know. It's just not natural. It just doesn't make sense, right? So Google has moved away from that, and they've penalized sites that are overstuffing blog posts with specific keyword phrases. Now, the way around that is to use what's known as latent semantic indexing keywords, or LSI keywords. So basically, if we're talking about best protein powder, if that's the keyword phrase you decided you want that blog post to be around, I'm going to just do a little search here, actually, and I'll give you the exact results from this. So if I type in best protein powder.
Is this something that I can share my screen on, or
actually, you know what? Yeah, you want to actually do that. Do you want to type in best protein powder in Google, and I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about here.
Let me just do a quick extra screen here, and we'll do that.
So essentially, as Buck is doing this, what you guys want to do is think about what are some derivatives or variations of that keyword phrase that you can use in the writing or in even the speaking of that content, which is more natural. And I'm going to show you guys a really cool way to discover some of those keywords.
Okay, so let's see. Boom. Now I've got my screen up. So what would you like me to show?
So a little funny story here. So you want to say hi?
Hey. Oh, let me switch the camera back. Hold on.
So this is my son, Luca, and he took a nap after school. So right now, he's not very tired. And his show stopped, so he's come down to see if I'll start it for him.
Hey, Luca, how's it going?
Can you say hi? Can you wave? You see that?
Oh,
we're talking to a bunch of people all around the world right now. Isn't that cool? Okay, can you go upstairs for a bit, and then I'll meet you upstairs in a little? Thanks, buddy.
He wants to run the show. That's what he wants to do.
Yeah, I know. He's awesome. So if you want to just pull that screen up there, Buck, and I'll show you guys something cool.
You betcha. Okay, so here we go. There we go. Let me move this to the front. Okay, go for it.
All right, so if you want to type in best protein powder.
Okay.
And if you scroll all the way to the bottom of the page.
All right.
See where it says searches related to best protein powder?
Let me just make that a little bit bigger. Mm-hmm.
Yep. All that stuff down there, those are LSI keywords. Those are basically what Google is telling you, here's what other people are searching for or have found or clicked on when we're talking about best protein powder. So not all of them will necessarily relate, for instance, but it gives you a really good base of alternative keywords. So for instance, best tasting protein powder, or best protein powder for weight loss, or best protein powder for building muscle.
Yep.
Right? So you can use variations of that. So it's not always best protein powder. Now, you can tell that best protein powder is still in those phrases, so it becomes a bit redundant. But you just want to speak, you want to write in a natural, just write naturally. Don't worry about stuffing keywords into your blog post, because Google is becoming very good at identifying what a specific piece of content is about. if you do a Google search for a specific keyword phrase, you'll find that a lot of the search results actually don't have the keyword phrase exactly as it's typed in.
Okay.
Because Google's saying, well, if you want to know about best protein patterns, this blog post might be of service to you, even though the title isn't best protein patterns. It might be, how to choose a good protein pattern, as an example, right? So they're becoming the algorithm is becoming very clever and intelligent at matching intent with the content, even though it's not word for word what the keyword phrase that you're targeting might be. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I realize that it might be because we're throwing out some acronyms here, and some of these are they are search engine oriented acronyms, but at the end of the day, what your process, this is what gets me excited about this, is that the process can be broken down into, okay, there's a research phase, there is going to be, and I don't know all the magic, the epic formula pieces, but research phase can be done in a fixed amount of time. I think one of the folks on here said that you could get it done in a couple days. I think was a comment that someone made. 2 hours a day for 5 days and a year's worth of content. Cool is what Christopher said. So once you have that, then and you can outsource this to part-time people, not full-time staff, that can help you come up with a schedule. And I assume that there's a schedule and a calendar component to this, and that you can get into a rhythm, realizing that this is not overnight, okay, but is it a little bit of a flywheel effect that is going on here to get momentum, and then you start to see it build up more and more momentum over time?
Yeah, totally. It's actually really cool because with a certain degree of predictability, even from an organic perspective, you can start building a really cool machine. And when you start seeing the results coming in, and again, it doesn't happen overnight. It takes a bit of time, especially if your website is like starting from scratch. Like my Healthpreneur website, that domain is, at the age of that domain is very, very young, versus my YuriElkaim.com domain, which is a lot older, so it has a bit more clout, and it's a bit easier for the momentum to keep going. But with that said, what's cool is that like in the first step of the Teach to Sell method, the ideate phase, I walk you through a very specific process, which is first we look at the keyword research, right? We get that dialed in. Then I also give you a number of other ways to come up with topic ideas. So in addition to the keyword research that I walk you through, there are a number of other ways that you can actually come up with really great ideas from the marketplace. And so we walk through that. Then let's say you have your list of keywords. The next thing is that we want to be writing compelling headlines. This is really, really important. Headlines are like email subject lines. If their main objective is to get the click. Now, what's interesting is that Google is actually rewarding websites that get a higher than expected click-through rate. So what that means is if somebody clicks on the headline in your subject line in a Google search.
Wait. Let me make sure I understand this correctly. So you're saying that if I'm better, even if someone else has done everything right, if I'm better at copywriting and get the copyright, the headline or the teaser copy or whatever it is, that I can beat my competition.
It's huge. There's some recent research done on this from Moz.com, which is one of the big kind of SEO platforms, and they showed that if, let's say, the expected click-through rate for a given keyword phrase was 10%, okay? If your website or if your headline beats that click-through rate by 20%, the likelihood of you getting a number one ranking is very high. Now, here's the flip side to that. If your headline sucks and the click-through rate is lower than expected, your rankings will plummet. So this is why I love content, because not only do you have to produce an amazing piece of content, but you also kind of bring in the marketing, the copywriting, the clever headline writing, and I walk you through exactly how to do that process. So not only do I teach you how to do that, but then you also have these really cool worksheets that we have with like proven templates and headline formulas, and then you can basically plug in your keyword with all sorts of different formulas. We've got how-to and lists and question-type headlines. And these have been proven to work in the search engines. And obviously, a lot of these formulas are from our business as well as others that have proven to work. So we take the keywords, then we work on crafting those into really compelling headlines that people actually will click on. And then once we have that, we then take those and we put them into our content calendar. And I show you exactly, I basically give you a template for the content calendar. We put that in the content calendar. So literally those headlines, boom, March 1st or whatever the date is.
Yep.
So you have a schedule, you have the, the keywords that you're targeting, all that stuff is mapped out. So everything we do is very methodical and each step builds upon the previous one. Because it wouldn't make sense to start writing headlines without knowing the keyword phrases that you're writing headlines about. So that's, the fun part is that the first phase, this ideate phase, is really, it sounds a bit more technical, and it kind of is, but this really, really important phase is very, very overlooked by most people. I'm telling you, most people are spending 80% of their time on content, on producing it, and like 20% of their time on research. It should be if you kind of flip that, and at least initially spend the vast majority of your time on the research, and then have a plan of action to execute, you're going to be far ahead of the game. And the cool thing is that after the kind of ideation phase, then it's really just about creating the content, getting it out there, and then obviously building a smart back end that you can monetize. And that's how we walk you through in the whole 6-step process of the Teach to Sell method. It's super awesome and exciting.
Well, I'm putting, just so that everyone knows what I'm referring to or what we're referring to here, if you joined late or you missed the last training that we had last week with Yuri, I'm putting in here, let me make sure that I've got this bit live. I'm putting in the link to, you have reopened applications for the workshop. So if you've missed the opportunity, you came in late, you were away from the weekend, or some people could not get in the door when we ran out of space on the last webinar. That's why I'm doing this on the, doing stuff like this on the live. I'm experimenting with these live casting. I put the link there for the Health Profits Workshop. So if you're interested in this workshop that Yuri's talking about, the live events, 2-day live event, walk you through where you walk away with a working funnel with work content that follows his process. Then you can just click there and take a look at, there's going to be a video there, and you might want to watch that after this live cast. But he explains exactly what it's about. There's 2 different workshops. Most likely I'm going to be going to the LA workshop and hanging out with folks there. I know Kitty said that she was going, so I get a chance to see everyone there. And a number of folks have already put in their applications, so I'm excited for that. But I want to make sure that we get other folks that are joining in late, so their questions answered. It says, My Optimal Health Channel, that's the name that came in here. It says, I'm a nurse of many, many years looking to go into internet marketing using my knowledge, but unsure of my focus that would make a marketable product. So unsure what to focus on. You have some recommendations there, Yuri.
Yeah, I think, focus on what the market wants. Like, focus on where your skill set is, your passion is, your expertise lies, and then try to cross-reference that with what the market wants. Because if you have a product-centric business, you're always going to be at the mercy of changes, right? And people will come and go, and they might, fall out of love with a specific product. But if you focus on your market, you evolve with your market. You're always looking at, like, what do you guys care about? What are your pain points? And then based on that, you can develop content and products around that stuff. So as an example, I have a good friend of ours who has a great hip flexor / low back pain product. Basically shows you how to open up tight hips, and it's awesome. We don't have anything like that in our product wheelhouse. It's a digital product. It's like, $20. It's great. So I talk a lot about exercise and fat loss and, some mobility stuff. And as I'm getting older, mobility actually is going to be a big play for me in terms of content, because I'm doing a lot of it myself. But I currently don't have an offering like that in our product wheelhouse. So we've developed content around that topic. And now what we do is we can have a subset of our list of our followers who have said, yes, I'm interested in this. We can just say, hey, listen, I understand that this is an issue for you, and you may want to check out this program by my good friends Mike and Rick. It's awesome. It's what I use for my own stuff, and because I don't have anything similar to it, I thought you might enjoy it as well. So I could create something like that in the future. Just if there's no other solution out there, I would look at what is the big pain points. And again, every single time we've mentioned this product to our list, it's done very, very well. And for me, that's a big sign that, hey, people have some type of awareness that they've got tight hips and low back issues, And when you can go where there is pain and urgency, you will do much better than products or markets segments where it's simply a nice to have. So if you can go, I mean, if you've got a migraine, what do you like? Do you really want natural remedies that are going to take a couple days to kick in? Maybe, but I think most of us would just rather pop an Advil to get rid of it right away. So you want to figure out where is there pain and urgency in your specific marketplace and try to cater to those specific desires. If there's products already in the marketplace around that, have a look at them. See what they're doing, see what their offer is, see what their ingredients are if it's a supplement, and then ask yourself, how do I make something that's 10 times better? Because that's a really important question I think not a lot of people ask, because if you're entering a crowded marketplace like the health and wellness space, marginal differences are going to be very tough to market. But if you can come out with something exceptionally better, you essentially create a category of one. And when you do that, you become the Apple of that specific market, of that specific niche. It becomes a lot easier to market that because you can message or you can communicate the value proposition or what makes that product so beneficial and unique to the end consumer, to the end customer. Whereas, if you're coming out with another weight loss workout, well, I've seen like 1,000 of those. What makes yours so different? You have to become very clever with how you're marketing stuff to just, make stuff seem different when it's really all the same. And so I think, like, again, spending time in the ideation, the research, the thinking phase, where you can look at, how do I make something that's amazing? Can I create a category of one? Can I dominate a very small segment of this marketplace? Actually, on our Healthpreneur Group website, healthpreneurgroup.com, I have a 2-page PDF called the Idea Filter. And I created this because when I was starting out, I was creating products left, right, and center, and nobody cared about them, right? I just thought, hey, it was a great idea. Like, I'll give you a perfect example. I was a couple years ago, I was big into like these adventure workouts, like Tough Mudder and all that stuff. So I'm like, I'm going to create a workout program to help people train for that. Now, I didn't think about the fact that, hey, my audience is mostly postmenopausal women, so they're not going to be doing Tough Mudders anytime soon. So I created all these workouts, put it out to our list, and like crickets. And again, it was just, I was not thinking about this stuff at the time. I'm like, I wasn't meeting my market where they were. They didn't care about this stuff. Maybe that would have worked well for a different segment of the marketplace. But again, I hadn't thought through this stuff. So I put this PDF together to really use it as a filter to come up with a much better quantitative way at filtering out great ideas from so-so ideas, so that you don't waste time and effort going down stuff that you probably shouldn't pursue. So that's kind of a long-winded answer, but I hope that answers your question.
That was excellent, Yuri. I'm going to come back over here. I just trying to get some better lighting in here. I want to make sure that Kitty's question's answered. Kitty says, I noticed that your blog is not connected to all of your products. Actually, this came up, I think you were asking this question in a different context too, Kitty. It's not connected to all your products or sales pages. What do you think of the more usual style of having a blog and store within the same site?
So you can absolutely do that. But remember, a storefront, I believe, is really only to be used for people who have already seen your products somewhere else. And we've tested this. Like, we have a protein powder that we sent to a store page and it converted like 0, right? Versus taking them through an actual content / education building marketing funnel, which resulted in like 10x better results. The only time I would use a storefront page personally is if somebody has gone through that type of funnel and then maybe we're retargeting them on, let's say, Facebook or even via email saying, hey, just, notice you checked out the protein powder, but you haven't grabbed, a tin yet. We only have a couple more in stock. Thought you may want to check it out again. And then there, because the awareness is already there, we can then send them back. We can send them back to more of a direct, okay, I just want to get the thing now type of storefront page. That's typically how we would use our storefront pages. But again, this is a philosophical approach. And the cool thing about business is it's really philosophy. So we made some very philosophical decisions and choices on our blog where we said 0 facing products. We want this to be 100% goodwill, But if you look at our content, every single blog post is like a sales page. There's no right-hand sidebar. There's no distractions. There's nothing. It's just content. And there's a very specific reason for that, because we make them an offer, like a free opt-in, a lead magnet that is congruent with the with the content on that specific post. And then what that allows us to do is it allows us to capture an audience that is now saying, yes, I'm interested in this particular avenue, right? Let's just call it, body weight exercises or abdominal exercises, or I'm interested in green smoothies. So we have specific funnels or buckets that we put people into based on, again, free content and a free lead magnet that responds or relates to that content. And then that allows us on the back end to then take them down into a slightly more narrow focus in terms of our offerings. But on the front end, we're just saying, listen, just enjoy this. If you enjoy this, then you'll most likely enjoy this other stuff. So as Buck is showing right here, this is a blog post on jumping rope. And then our lead magnets is a 5-minute interval training workout, which is me on your headphones helping you go through that jump rope workout in 5 minutes. It's very congruent with the content. Instead of saying, well, now that you've read this post on jumping rope, do you want to join my newsletter? Right? And nobody cares about the newsletters anymore, right? It has to be congruent with the content. And this is something we call the triple M, which is message to market match. Really, really important. And it's basically how we're getting opt-in rates of up to 50% on some of our blog posts.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was Kitty that mentioned to me is saying, wow, how are you getting such amazing opt-in rates when sometimes it wasn't clear where the point of opt-in was. And it seemed like what you're doing is you're engaging the person. Maybe this article's indexed in Google, 5 powerful jump rope, high intensity interval training workouts. So it's indexed in Google. It's got, I would assume it has a great it's great title, great description, meta description to go with it. Someone clicks on it. Now, what's very counterintuitive here, because everyone else does this differently, right? You scroll down and there are no distractions. I've been on so many sites that have pop-ups and right-hand rail, ads and just so much stuff to get my attention. Facebook, that's trying to get me to do something else. I think you've got this thing where you got the share widgets here, which are great. One thing I really love that you're doing that's really cool, I'm sure you're going to talk about this, is you've got some of the more late model sharing ideas of things like iMessage and WhatsApp, which is kind of neat. But I'm not getting hit with any overt. Now, you did have your little pop-up come up earlier, but you have inline call to action for this, and also then the pop-up that came up later. And wow, I'm probably going to spend more. I noticed that I bounce off sites that have all those trappings, all those gizmos and gadgets and pop-ups and things like that, because typically I'm doing this on a mobile device, and then it really pisses me off because it slows down my mobile response. So I definitely get it. It makes a lot of sense to me what you're doing here. Is this style what you'll be covering in the training?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, formatting, again, you don't have to format your blog like that, but from what I've seen, the smarter ROI based blogs like Zapier.com, GrooveHQ, some of these more intelligent content marketing websites, they've all moved, and I don't know if they were initially on a different type of format, but they're all thin content, so not super wide, but narrow content because it's easier on the eyes to scroll, and there's no distractions. Because if you think about it, if we're running a website like menshealth.com or prevention.com, what is their objective? What is their monetization? Their monetization model is ad clicks, right, or page views to get more ads. Or get more advertisers to pay the money, because they're saying, listen, we're getting like whatever number of page views per visit,
right? And
that becomes their guiding metric. I'm not in the game of putting up Google AdSense on my website. You can, but I don't think it's a good idea because it dilutes your brand. It removes people. If you've got no products, then maybe cool. But if you have products you want to sell, funnel them into your own products, right? So in our case, we're saying we have a very strategic focus with this specific piece of content. We know exactly what the different buckets are, and the content we're creating all leads into one of those specific buckets because we know that they've been built in or built out on the back end to lead people down from a prospect into a customer in a way that adds value to them and is congruent with what they said they were interested in. We're not offering people green smoothie stuff if they opted in for the interval training workout, right? So we're making them specific offers in a way that is very unique, that is congruent with what they're saying they're interested in. And again, nobody is doing this. Like if you find a website that is doing this, there might be a few that are getting a little bit savvier with a congruent lead magnet to the content, but very few people are doing what we do on the back end. And what we do on the back end, really, if you look at the Teach to Sell method, we have 6 steps, right? We have ideate, educate, and propagate, which is phase 2. Step 3 is motivate. And from motivate to step 6 is all about what you don't see, is all about the under the water surface. Because most people focus on the tip of the iceberg, which is traffic and vanity metrics. We focus on what's happening underneath the surface, which is what happens after somebody opts in. Because that is really where you're able to turn traffic into money for your business. And obviously cold traffic, cold prospects into customers that actually have had a good, valuable experience because you've given them content first before saying, hey, buy my stuff.
Right.
So it's again, no one was doing this. And I said, listen, I think this is, so we kind of combined our strength of marketing as well as content, and we kind of brought them together in a way that has been producing tremendous results for us and the people we've worked with.
And it seems to be working very, very nicely. That's why being a more of a media buying focused company, adding this to the mix now, and I really think that this is a perfect time for us to add this to our mix because it's just another channel and another way to not only support our media buying efforts, which a lot of folks probably looking at to buy media on Facebook, Google, Bing, Pinterest, etc. And this, I see this strategy and having this content out there really supporting our media and in itself driving leads and sales just as a standalone. So if you could if you didn't want to spend money and take the risk with media buying, this is a great way to use elbow grease or low cost resources to get this done and build momentum. And something that this is one of those things that stuff can get taken away from you. I mean, it can happen, right? So Google could or Facebook could wake up one day and say, you know what, we don't want fish oil products sold on our network anymore. You know, Peruvian fish oil is just no good. It's got too many contaminants, and we just don't want it sold here. Mark Zuckerberg believes that, and so suddenly all those offers are gone, right? But if you have taken the time to do this in a way that is, welcoming to the search engines and to the audience, then this is an asset that's just going to continue working for you day in and day out. So that's
truly is.
Yeah, I'm really stoked about that. So Christopher was asking, would you recommend keyword research? So I'll sort of get 2 questions in one. Would you recommend keyword research coupled with market surveys like Ryan Levesque's Ask method before creating content?
Yeah, totally. So asking your audience is one of the kind of extra methods we walk you through in terms of coming up with topic ideas. And what you can do is you can use the ask method, like what's your number one challenge with respect to whatever. And then based on their answers, you just look at, okay, well, out of this answer, what would be a potential keyword phrase idea? And then you just cross-reference that with a bit of research. And it's a pretty simple way of doing that. So yeah, because you definitely want to ask people what their challenges are, because if you have that interaction with your audience, definitely use it. Okay. Because you'll get kind of an expedited path to what matters most to them. And yeah, definitely cross-reference it with keyword research, and that's one of the things that we do. And it's definitely it's very, very, I would recommend it strongly.
It's a good one. It's a good peanut butter and chocolate, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And then the other question from Dushan was, that's not an unfair question, Dushan. No problem. Is there a keyword research tool that you recommend that stands out?
Yeah, well, it's definitely not an unfair question, and my answer I don't think is biased in any way, shape, or form. So there's two tools that we use. One is Google Keyword Planner, which is free. You can just basically access it by typing in Google Keyword Planner. But The tool that I think everybody should be using, and you would be crazy not to use this considering what it gives you, is SEMrush. SEMrush is, I mean, I'm like, how did I not use this so long ago? We just started using it like a year and a half ago.
They've been around for a while. I mean, they're not newbies.
Oh my goodness.
Right? Yeah.
For what it is, they should be charging $1,000 a month for what you get. It's unbelievable. It's $69 a month, and it's the best money as a content producer. Like, it's the only thing you need. I'm telling you, it's the only thing you need, because it takes care of competitive research. You can literally get competitive intel on what your competitors are doing, other websites in the space are doing.
Yep. You
get like keyword research to the granular level that Google Keyword Tool is not going to provide you.
Right.
I mean, there's so much stuff I can't even begin to talk about. It's insane. I mean, so that's the one tool I use and we use in our company, and that's the only tool we use for content, because it's just so powerful. We've used other ones in the past. Like for instance, Scribe was a plugin for WordPress that was developed by Copyblogger. And I love, Copyblogger and what they've done is awesome, but Scribe was $97 a month, and it nowhere even nearly comes close to what SEMrush provides.
Didn't have the functionality. Okay.
Yeah, so SEMrush is amazing.
Okay. And another question from Deshaun, it says, can you comment on your lead magnets and number of pages /videos? So maybe the question is, how many lead magnets do you have? Or you mentioned you have a number of buckets or categories. What's the ratio there? How many, etc.? Or is that really going to vary?
Yeah. So one of the things that we talk about, in how we approach content is, for us, we've identified a number of different kind of paths that we're really good at, like energy, abdominal exercises, body weight stuff, smoothies, healthy eating recipes. So each one of those paths has a congruent lead magnet with it. So for instance, if we're putting up a recipe on our blog, we're not going to say, join my newsletter. We're not going to say, hey, get this free workout. We have a free cookbook we'd like you to have. That's a pretty cool, compelling offer. So we have that we actually had it as a digital download, and then we turned the cookbook into a physical one. So now we have a free plus shipping offer there. But even without the free plus shipping, we were just offering people a free cookbook on any recipe post that we had. Again, just the message to market match there is so congruent, and we were getting opt-in rates on most of our recipe posts, anywhere from like 10 to 20%. And the cool thing with those is that, we're getting featured in a lot of roundup posts around the web, like on greatest.com or Mind Body Green. And because our recipes we have a food photographer that we work with, and she just, some of the pictures are just outstanding. And so that gets a lot of great attention. And then all those links come back to those blog posts. And then those people that traffic comes in. And now we're able to capture more of that traffic than we would have if we had some generic opt-in offer. So it really depends. You don't have to have as many different buckets as we do. Like, you might have one, right? Maybe you're like, there's a guy in the fitness space whose name is Brett Contreras, and he's like the glute guy. That's all he does is glute training. That would be like me being like the shoulder guy. I only talk about shoulders, right? So if that were you, you would literally have maybe 1, 2, maybe 3 lead magnets, depending on how you position stuff, all around that topic. So, you want to look at, the easiest way to think about it is twofold. What's the content that I'm really good at producing, or that we can produce as a company? And second is, if you think starting with the end in mind, what are the eventual products we want to get people to purchase, and work backwards from there? So for instance, we have an abdominal program called the Amazing Ab Solution. Now, to throw that up on a blog post and say, hey, I hope you enjoyed this, now buy the product, it's not going to happen. That would be like talking to a girl and then be like, okay, let's, or in my case, a girl, and then being like, well, why don't we just head back to my place? That might work sometimes, but the percentages are pretty low. So we're looking at, okay, that's the ultimate objective. Get them into that program, and then let's work backwards. How do we create we splinter off a smaller product, splinter off a lead magnet from there, and then from there we splinter off content that will lead people into that entire bucket or funnel, and that's how we create lead magnets for that. And then we have a very specific process. Actually, we have a tool called the Lead Magnet Generator that is a four-step process to helping you create irresistible lead magnets that help you get very high conversions on your traffic, whether it's paid or organic. So yeah, we
I'm
have
very interested in that.
Every single step is really dialed in, and yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Let's see. Christopher's I'm just mentioning here, agree on not using Google AdSense on your own brand page. I know a lot of people just go for that. In fact, you and I were at a mastermind where it's sort of like, oh, the more the merrier. Throw AdSense everywhere. It's revenue. Why miss the opportunity? And I think you, which is great, you have, like you said, a philosophy. And the philosophy is one of really generating goodwill, giving value in advance, and then earning the trust and earning the right to maybe make a recommendation. And I think that's really cool. And that's the long game. That's the
Absolutely.
long game. So,
and I mean, like just going back to what you were mentioning earlier with the products, like if you're driving paid traffic to a product, I don't know about you guys, but what I normally do is if I'm really like considering buying something, I will go into Google afterwards and type it in. And then I'll be looking at, okay, well, what are the reviews? Is there content around this? And if, for instance, your website doesn't even show up, that's a bit of a warning flag for me. But if I see like this great authoritative website with awesome content, that's reassuring for me as a consumer.
Mm-hmm.
And when I see that, I'm like, well, this is actually a reputable company. They're producing amazing content. I feel better in my purchasing decision. And the other thing too is that Google is one of the big ranking factors. And this actually I think could probably help paid traffic too, is brand awareness. So if your brand, like our friend Dave Asprey with Bulletproof Coffee, talk about brand awareness. Like it's everywhere, right? That is probably that's probably the best example of brand awareness that I can think of in our space, because it's been spoken about everywhere. And that helps your rankings in today's day and age on Google. So if you have no content anywhere, if you've never been mentioned anywhere, if no one's talking about your brand or your products, that's not going to help out. But if you're producing content and really reaching out in a way that you're getting out there organically or even through different partnerships, that really makes a big difference for Google. And if it makes a big difference for Google, it's because it makes a big difference for the consumer as well.
Well, I would call it a sort of a modern day PR, and a reputation. It's a kind of reputation management. It's sort of you're being proactive about making sure that messages that you're putting out are getting discovered and support if someone's doing homework on you. And now this is the age where no one's not going to take you at your word at face value. They're going to go and look you up on Google. They're going to look you up on Facebook. They're going to look you up on Amazon. They're going to make, maybe even look you up on eBay. Check you out on BBB. Then, if you took the time to continue communicating with them and following up in a welcomed way, they might say, okay, I'm ready to buy. So Teresa is asking, Yuri keeps mentioning buckets. Have you used the Ask method by Ryan Levesque to find your buckets? Like, I guess she's referring to the deep dive survey and his process.
Yeah, it's actually funny because before Ryan was even teaching this stuff, I mean, we sent out surveys. I mean, as early as I can remember, we were sending out surveys to our list. Mm-hmm. And I remember sending out surveys where we would just say, hey, what's the biggest obstacle keeping you from losing weight, as an example. And then we would get the responses, and then I would do a follow-up training. I would say, hey guys, here are the responses from the survey, and it looks like you guys have this issue. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put together a free training on this specific issue. And what was cool there is we were tying in what they're telling me they wanted or had an issue with. I was creating free content around that, and then that led into a really cool offer that was congruent with that free content. So it was a really cool cyclical way of doing that, and we've been doing that for years. I've gone through Ryan's training. It's obviously pretty granular, but we've been doing segmentation of that nature for a long time, and it's very, very, it's powerful.
I'm a big fan. In fact, I'm going to Austin, as I mentioned when we were in the green room, going to Austin for the mastermind because I'm a client of his. So we get together in Austin, and he brings some of his clients and other folks. I think he does, in conjunction with that, he does a workshop like you're doing with the content mastery method workshop. He does a workshop now. He charges I think 3 times what you charge for your workshop for his workshop, and
Sure.
And I'm not saying it's not worth it. It absolutely is worth it, but I think it really highlights the fact that you are undercharging for what you're delivering at this workshop in LA, in Florida, Orlando, right? So So I'm going to put that in there again, just as folks are coming in, looking at what's going on. This is really, you're Dushan's mentioning he's getting more value out of this talk, this Q&A talk, than he gets out of paid webinars and stuff that he attends. So thank you, Dushan. Awesome. I appreciate that. I'm getting a lot out of it, and there's the link if you would like to apply to join us at one of the workshops, these 2-day workshops that I'm talking about, which is the Content Mastery Workshop that Yuri's putting on. This is a workshop, not a seminar. And I really want to highlight, and the details are on that link, but it's a workshop, so you will be in a small context with 20 people. You'll have like a real student desk, from what I understand,
but with better memories.
With better memories than your teacher whacking you on the wrist with a ruler, and you'll walk away not only with friends made, tight connections with Yuri and the other attendees. Many of them are going to be folks like me that are running 7- and 8-figure businesses, and you're going to walk away with a working plan and a working content funnel, from what I understand. So it's not like you're going to have that list of checklist items, but in addition to that, you're also going to get the training, not the training, but the actual course. So you have an execution plan that you can refer back to that has all the checklists and content and so forth. Now, some folks were asking me, and I get it. I know why you would ask. Can I just get the course if I'm not able to make the workshop? Can you mind getting into that?
Yeah, well, it's something we've toyed with, and we're not going to really. I'm not going to make that available now. Maybe in the future we might make that available as an option, but for now, we really want to serve this information to people who are committed to putting this to work. Because the course, let's be very honest, when people buy something online, very few actually complete the course. And I'm not saying that you guys are not going to do that, but I really, at least for now, because this methodology is so kind of near and dear to my heart, it's almost like I'm entrusting my children to you guys to to do good in this world with this information. So for right now, we're really just kind of rewarding people who join us in the workshop to get access to this adjunct course, which is what I love about the course too, is that, as Buck mentioned, you have everything I do is very actionable. So I'm not going to be teaching you hours of theory and then, good luck on your own. It's, every single lesson has a worksheet or a swipe file or some type of quick thing that you can work on and implement based on what we talked about. And the cool thing is you can give the course to one of your team members. So I talked about the keyword research stuff. You can go through it once just to understand it and then hand it off to one of your assistants, and they can do all that for you. And there's a number of different things in the course that allow you to have that type of leverage. So it's a great course. I've literally poured my heart and soul, and I'm like, what else have I not mentioned here? But in a way that's not overwhelming. Everything is very methodically produced in a way that each lesson, each module builds upon the previous one. So I say, listen, don't even open module 2. Do not even touch that until you've gone through module 1. And don't go to lesson 2 in module 1 until you've done lesson 1. Everything is built in a very sequential manner. And the same thing happens in the workshop. In the workshop, you're going to get our content mastery playbook. And the playbook is, think of like an NFL coach where they're looking through, okay, here's how we're going to run a Hail Mary pass or, do this blitz. That's exactly what you're going to get in the workshop. And we're going to go through the workbook or the playbook together, and you're going to have specific worksheets to fill out and kind of complete as we're there together. You don't even have to bring a notebook. Literally, don't even bring a notebook. I don't want you taking notes, because all you're going to have to do is we're going to go through a concept, we're going to do the exercise, and then we're going to convene about it and then move on. So my intention for you is by the end of the 2 days together, you're not just going to have a list of keywords. That's not what we're doing here, right? You're going to have a funnel done, a content funnel, which basically means if you wanted to, you'll have it done or very close to done, which means if you wanted to, you could technically drive paid traffic at just a couple bucks a day to test it out, literally a couple days after leaving the workshop. You could drive traffic like we are to that sugar blog post because it's actually making money for you on the back end. So that's my intention for you, is to leave the workshop with done as opposed to a to-do list. And if you've enjoyed this, believe me, this is nothing compared to what I'll give you in person. It'll be 2 days together. We'll be we'll get more done in 2 days working on your business, working on your strategy than you did all of last year trying to figure it out on your own. So you're investing in speed, you're investing in a proven process, and you're investing in being able to hang out with a cool dude like me and and Buck as well.
Well, I know the year is wrapping up very fast, and that that train is going to be coming up quick. So I can't wait, and it's a short. I'm so glad that you offered it in a bi-coastal manner, because it's easy for anyone to get there, probably at an hour and a half plane ride if they're not already in California or Florida. So a couple questions.
I was gonna do it in Toronto, but then I was like, you know what? We've done a lot in Toronto. I think I'm gonna come down to the States to cater to you Americans.
We still let you Canadians in once in a while. So is this so Elegant Beans and Beyond is asking, is this course suitable for people who are not as tech savvy as others who are? It's a great question.
Yeah, absolutely. Good question. So remember that there are some technical nuances to content, but we're not going to focus on the technical stuff at the workshop. I had a lady who's a pretty prominent podcaster, and we invited her out, and she couldn't make it based on the dates, but she was thinking of sending her tech guy because she thought this was going to be like a technical thing. And I'm like, listen, you're the one who needs to be here, because this is about the strategy. This is about the overarching big picture. Your tech guy doesn't need to be here. He's going to be like, whatever, just tell me what to do. So my goal with the 2 days is to focus on the big rocks, not the tiny pebbles. The tiny pebbles we talk about in the online course if you want granular detail on specific things. And the cool thing, again, is if you have somebody who's a bit more techie, and again, it's not like you have to be techie. Maybe the keyword research. Again, it's somewhat technical, but in 2 videos that are 15, 20 minutes each, you're going to learn everything you need to know about keyword research, and you can hand that off to somebody else to do. And that's not even like technical stuff. That's working within the keyword research tool, like on SEMrush or Google Keyword Planner, and coming up with a list of keywords. Above and beyond that, really, really simple tools. Like if you have a WordPress site or some type of content management platform, that's pretty much all you need. We'll talk about integration with things like lead pages or simple like lead opt-in kind of stuff like that. But really, it's about, I'll say this to people. I'm like, your goal as the entrepreneur is to focus on spending less time online, which is ironic since we're building an online business,
right?
Because your true magic comes from, and I would actually prefer if in the workshop we had no Wi-Fi connection at all, other than me showing some examples on the big screen. Because when I'm asking you to think about an angle for marketing something or positioning something in a certain way or coming up with a lead magnet that's going to be congruent with this content, we don't need the internet for that. We don't need to worry about what platform we're going to use, because that is a secondary question that is rather easy to answer. You can find somebody to set that up. But the real magic is when you can think about what is the hook, what is the thing that I'm going to offer here, and if we figure out that right thing, that's where the big results come from. We can worry about how to integrate the lead box or opt-in offer afterwards, but in the 2 days, we're going to focus on what is the offer, what is the content, how do we position this, how do we build this out in terms of the strategic focus, and then the technical stuff, again, which is minimal, can be dealt with either by yourselves or somebody who is your web developer or webmaster very, very seamlessly. So believe me, I've always believed that the less you know about technology, the better off you're going to be online. Because the more you know about it, the more you're going to fiddle around with it and start learning more about it. But you don't need to learn about it, right? Let somebody else do that for you. So I hope that answers your question.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you, Yuri. So Christopher's asking a very interesting question. So Christopher is in San Diego, I believe, and he says, I see that on the event page at healthprofitsworkshop.com that you've mentioned in the webinar, you kind of said who this is for, right? And one comment you did make is, although it's great for people that already have their business up and running and have a certain run rate and maybe even have a small team that can execute this, but if you are just getting started, is that, I guess his question is, do you have people that are literally getting started that attend the workshop and get benefit from it?
Yeah, Absolutely. I wish I had had this when I was just getting started. It would have saved me 3 years of struggle. And then more years of doing stupid stuff that never really worked out. So I say ideally it's better if you have an existing business because the speed of implementation is a little bit faster, right? You can just plug stuff in and go with it. It's a lot easier to send an email, as an example. Not that this is pertinent to this discussion, but let's say you have, if I say, listen, we're going to work on a promotion thing, it's a lot easier if you have an email list of 100,000 people than if you have 0 people on your email list. So obviously you see a return from that. So yes, it's helpful if you have an existing business, if you have an existing following, that's great. If you don't, it still doesn't mean you can't benefit from this. I have, so one of the guys, so if you watch on the workshop application page, 2 of the video testimonials about halfway down, one from Dan, one from Philip, they're completely pre-revenue. And they actually joined us in Toronto for our last workshop. And Philip, actually, he's coming to both LA and Orlando. Okay, he's registered for both workshops. And he's like, can I do that? I'm like, if you want to, by all means, because I guess we'll have a bit more time to work on some stuff. And he's pre-revenue. But the cool thing about Philip is that he sees the value in this. He understands what he is getting in terms of accelerated learning and avoiding a lot of the mistakes that I made when I was wasting my time for years when I started my online business. So, if you're coming to LA or Orlando, you'll get to meet Phil. He's an awesome guy. And, we've had people that are, relative beginners. We've also worked with people who are 6, 7, 8-figure business owners in the online health and fitness space. And, again, it's a framework that superimposes itself on whatever you're doing. It's a business model that will give you an unfair advantage if you have a business already. It will give you an unfair advantage, an accelerated process to move through if you're just starting out. And obviously, that's going to help you avoid a lot of the pitfalls and mistakes. And that's the reason why we put this together, because we really want to help. If you have a message, I don't want to say, listen, it's up to you. If you can make the investment to be with us and you're willing to do the work and actually take action on this stuff, I would love for the whole thing to be beginners, because I would rather elevate people who may not know how to get started and give them this recipe to help them avoid a lot of the pitfalls than not. So I'm super passionate about helping those who are already doing great and those who are just getting started, because I think it's just such an amazing opportunity.
Well, I have this feeling that this is going to be there. There have been these seminal moments where I know that I made a decision to invest in a program or a partnership, or it was an investment both in time and money, right? Mm-hmm. And typically it's both, right? To do those kinds of things. Yep. But if it were a well-informed decision, and I take my time, I think things through, and I make sure that this is generally, risk reward. This is going to work out for me. As long as I know I can I'm going to make it happen. I will implement it. And what I've typically found is things that are more very hands-on, and where I'm working with other like-minded people that are really making it happen, that are doing it. I tend to have a much better outcome with that. I have a support unit that other people that are doing it. I'm hearing good news about what they're accomplishing. I'm sharing the good news about what I'm doing with it, and so that I think it's great that there's also going to be a blend of both people that are sort of been there, done that, and still are going to come back and attend it again, just to make sure that they get that extra, edge of doing it, of picking that up, and along with people that are, let's call them the newbies. And I'm personally, as far as content is concerned and content marketing, I would be a newbie, right, coming sure. in. Yes, I have a going business, and we do things with media buying, and we're pretty good at putting together funnels, but we're babes in the woods when it comes to search engine marketing and SEO and content marketing specifically. So this is what gets me super excited. But I think that me being there, other entrepreneurs, whether it's the Orlando event or the LA event, are really going to be inspiring for people. And I'm love to fact, Christopher, if you could make it, man, I would love to see you there. Whatever you can do by hook or by crook, get there. So it sounds like you just said that if this is the case, you're going to do your best to be there. So awesome. You're down in San Diego.
Totally.
You could fall out of bed and you'll be in LA. Although
Seriously.
I know the traffic's
You
pretty
could
bad.
totally be there. Again, from what Buck tells me, you'd be a great, you seem like you're somebody who's committed to this. So it'd be great to have you. And for anybody else who's, kind of contemplating this. And again, if you guys have any questions or objections or kind of skepticisms, please let us address those now.
Yeah.
That's why we're here, right?
So,
and we obviously want to, give Buck's audience kind of first dibs on this, because we've just literally started a pretty aggressive campaign on Facebook with Facebook ads to this funnel. We're basically kind of leading into this workshop about, a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. So, space is going to be filling up pretty quickly. And I wanted to reach out to Buck to say, you know what, you're a friend. I know you've got this great audience. Let's see if this would be of interest to them.
I'm so glad that you gave my folks first dibs. I'm so happy.
Totally.
Thank you so much for doing that, Yuri.
Welcome.
And this is really, really cool. Well, I think, you are committed, Christopher. Thank you, sir. And you're right. It's just a quick shot up the 5. I used to live in Irvine, so I know. You're a little farther down, but no big deal. Let me just scroll through here and make sure that we have, I think that we answered the key questions that came up. And Christopher also said, lots of gems and pearls here today. So just listening in on this is very, very valuable training. So I am making a recording. I think this gets recorded into YouTube as part of the live recording mechanism, but we also are making recordings of this so I can share this with the Health Profits Academy community as well. And I believe that one question here. We got one here. I've been working with seniors. I just want to make sure this was covered. This was from my Optimal Health, who I think is the nurse. And I've been working with seniors and thought mobility and falls would make a good info product, but traditional searches do not show a huge market. People do not seem to be interested in prevention. So when I talk about supplements and teaching people how to get into the dietary supplement market, I do teach people that prevention is not, people would much rather put out what I call a house on fire problem. Joints are inflamed, my memory's going, my digestive tract is backed up and I'm gassy and bloated. They want to fix those problems, right? Like now. Any comments on, so she was talking about mobility, but I think mobility falls into this, it's a house on fire problem. What do you think? Yeah,
mobility is something we're aware of, right? Preventing a fall is something we don't think is going to happen to us, right? So I know, for instance, if I'm sitting or standing all day, I know that I'm getting tight in the hips. I can feel that. And that's why I'm conscious of being okay, I'm going to work on some mobility to keep, to keep myself limber and flexible. But I'm not thinking, I'm going to do this to prevent a possible injury.
Bless you.
Excuse me, I just had a little thing in my throat here.
I know. I always bring the water when I have these. We've been going for a little bit.
Excuse me. I just totally lost my voice there.
Oh, no problem. It happens to me all the time.
Maybe you want to switch the screen to yourself for a second.
Yeah, I would know. Happy to. So, but that's my feeling too. Is that mobility absolutely I feel is a house on fire problem, and that's something that people so the joint health market is fairly strong. There are some markets that are that are doing a bit better than joint health, but mobility is in there. I think things related to inflammation, reducing inflammation, which is also tying into joint health, and some people are doing products that combine joint health with skin and anti-aging in general. So I wouldn't give up per se. I don't know if you can really lump just avoiding falls and mobility. You want to necessarily put them in the same box together. But I do think mobility can be a good market, and certainly a good market as it relates to information products and bringing people into your sphere of influence that you could then go and promote a variety of products. This is what I love about Yuri's content marketing approach, is that he can have a long form article that's driving a lot of traffic, bringing traffic in, and I'll bring both frames in here. So bring a lot of traffic in, and then sort of softly, gently make a recommendation for a variety of products. And what's cool about this is that you get to do your research on somebody else's product, which is wonderful. That's really the way you want to do it. I was listening to a great book called Platform Revolution, talking about all these platforms like Airbnb and Facebook and Amazon, and they really are creating an environment where you can learn. These platforms can learn a lot of things without necessarily getting into a market per se, and then based on data and feedback, decide whether they want to jump in. There's a great example of that with Amazon, for example. Amazon there was a great article today that said Amazon is making a ton of money on private label products. Ton of money. Why do you think? Because they brought in all these merchants. All these merchants are selling all these products. Amazon sees the data, sees the run rates of these products, and then says, we're going to sell batteries. We're going to sell cables. We're going to sell this or that, all with the Amazon Basics brand or whatever. And they're making a killing. And in a sense, you as a content marketer can do the same thing, in the sense that you can bring an audience in, engage them, and then test and see what products actually resonate with them. And if they do resonate, kind of like what Jeff Bezos did with his private label products, you could in theory come out with your own version. So we did that at Real Dose Nutrition. We test marketed a protein powder. We test marketed a Real Reds, a red and purple fruit powder. We actually used some private label products initially because we didn't want to spend the money on inventory. We tested it. It worked. And then we said, you know what? Well, based on this, and we feel it's smart to go ahead and develop our own version of these formulas. And now they're both bestsellers for us. So it's a great. I truly believe that content marketing is the place everyone really needs to start, because the barrier, if you do it right, if you take the advice of a gentleman, which again, I for the life of me, I'm really amazed at the fact that Yuri's making this stuff available. That he's sharing this level of detail, because I don't see anyone else doing this, and doing this specifically in the health space. So anyway, Yuri, does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. Just to add to that, I would say, with content, you can look at what content is resonating best with your audience. You can look at that as a metric as well in terms of pursuing a path. And then, excuse me, it's crazy. You can also look at, like Buck said, just, test something out. If you have, let's say you have a funnel of people that have come into like an inflammation/mobility type of bucket, you could almost beta test an idea with them. Just say, hey guys, we've got like 100 units of this thing in stock. Is this of interest to you? If you can acquire one customer, if you can acquire 100 customers, that's a pretty good acid test that is going to be somewhat relevant to that specific segment. So, content allows you to segment your audience a lot more intelligently. And then from there, you can do some of the stuff that Buck talked about with testing and going to market before really rolling things out.
Well, Yuri, I just want to say thank you very much. I know we kind of went over. I thought we were going to do an hour Q&A, and it turns out we got some great questions and a great audience. I really thank everyone for being here tonight and joining us for this Q&A follow-up to that great Content Mastery webinar that you had put on last week. I've got the link in the chat and also on the screen there, healthprofitsworkshop.com. We still, before Yuri really cranks up the engine, because he's got a couple of other people that have tribes that are health entrepreneurs and health entrepreneurs in the making that want to attend a workshop like this. So before he kind of opens that up, I wanted to give the folks in the Health Profits community one last opportunity to apply. The application process is very painless. You just go to that Health Profits workshop. You pick which of the two. I'll just pretend like I'm doing it right now. So you go to, is that right? Health Profits. Yeah, Health Profits workshop. You scroll down to the workshop that you watch the video that gives you more of a trailer on what this is about, which I highly recommend that you watch. And then, these are some names. If you're tracking what's happening in the health space, have folks that are recommending this, like JJ Virgin, who's also a New York Times bestselling author of the Virgin Diet, and the fact that this is here's Yuri standing next to on the show Doctors and standing next to Dr. Oz. This is somebody that is a player. Okay, that when you're working with somebody like this who knows what they're doing and is doing it, that's the kind of people that I like to learn from, right? So you would scroll down, and I really agree. To teach to sell, what you're seeing on, what you're seeing on the surface. If you just go to Yuri's site, what you're seeing on the surface really is the surface. It's this, the other stuff that's going on, and why this works so well is what's underneath. That's really where the massive part of the strength of this process is, and what yields the kind of results that he's showing here that I'm excited about. Now, I get excited when I do a survey funnel and I get 30% opt-in rates. I know that typical opt-in rates on a website or a blog post, you're lucky if you get low single digits, right? You're lucky if you get low single digits. So to get 10 to 50% opt-in rates, that's just really crazy kind of performance. And then the course is included here. I know I'm not doing this justice here, but you can get more details about it at healthprofitsworkshop.com. And the course is, and now you mentioned, I know a few folks that may not have made it to the Q&A asked this question. You mentioned that you'll give early access to this course prior to the live event. There'll be some homework or some pre-work before the workshop?
Yeah, so we're just finalizing everything and getting it all set up in the membership site. So that'll all be ready to go for access within the next 2 weeks.
Okay. And then come down. This is all you need to do. Come here, pick which city you want to attend. I'm going to, for example, be in LA, and then you just it starts. This takes them into the application process, because Yuri wants to know, is this right for you? Right? He needs to know where you're coming from, what you're planning to do with this, and is it a good fit? And it may not be. Okay, and that's absolutely fine. So if it's not a good fit, I know that there is a $100 application fee. If there's not a good fit, then you get your $100 back, no harm, no foul, and everyone parts friends. So please don't give this short shrift. Please fill in the application and treat it like you're literally applying to be there with bells on and excited and do something great with this training, which is what I plan to do. So. Yuri, I'm let me make sure I got this. I got your face blocked with the screen. I'm
chat.
Exactly. So please, everyone, give Yuri a warm welcome and a thank you for doing the training here. Christopher says, such an honor to be here. Thank you again for such valuable information. My Optimal Health channel says thank you, Mr. Vogelman, and Vathan, am I going to mispronounce it? I think they were just getting some help from other folks on the chat, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And then from Dushan. And I know Christopher is always taking control of the chat. So Christopher, I don't know if you're still there. Great to have you on the chat and in the call, and hopefully I'll see you in LA. There you go. Thank you, Christopher. Yuri, awesome job. Thank you, sir. Thank you for staying with us tonight. Any parting thoughts before we close off?
I'm just happy to do this. I mean, I love teaching. I love sharing my wisdom and my knowledge. And I'm just happy that we've had the chance to for reaching out and connecting on this, because I was this is a good idea. We should absolutely do this, because there's definitely been some questions that have come through. And this is what I do. I mean, this is content, right? This is a form of content, and there's just so many different ways that can work for you, whether it's video or audio podcast or a written blog post. It's just the world. The world is your oyster. Especially when you have the knowledge and expertise that you guys have, whether it's on a specific topic matter or your products. We're going to look at how to unpackage all that and get it out to the world in a way that serves them. And I'm super excited to help you guys through that.
Nice. And Kitty, I'm looking forward to seeing you in LA too. So everyone, have a great night. I'm going to go grab some dinner with my wife and kids. I know that Yuri's going to get together with his family as well. I think the kids are in bed now, right? It's late there.
I think so. Yeah.
Luca better be in bed, but it was great seeing him on the call. So
yeah, that's cute.
Have a great night, everybody. I'm going to stop the broadcast now. So enjoy, and look forward to seeing you in LA or in Orlando. Take care, everybody.
Thanks, guys.